Sai Ram viewers, welcome to Byte Fusion. In today's lesson, we're going to learn about mathematical functions, strings, and characters. So, guys, I just want to say that I'm really glad that a lot of you are taking interest in programming. So I'm going to try my best to give you good knowledge and educate you on it. All right, so let's get right into it. Okay guys, so as you can see I have Eclipse open and I have my class and my method main. So what I wanted to talk about today is, although we're going to discuss mathematical functions and all of that, I really want to discuss comments with you all. So what exactly is a comment in Java? So a comment, right, is a statement or a bunch of sentences that basically explain what a method, what a variable does, what the method does. It can be used to explain your code in general. So how do we use comments? So one way to use comments would be to use 2 forward slashes, and then you can type in some sort of sentence, like maybe you can say, this method is the main method, right? That's one way to do a comment. In Java, that's called a single line comment. Okay. So another type of comment that you can use in Java is a multi-line comment. So how that works is we have a forward slash, we put 2 stars, we press enter, and you can see it kind of creates it kind of looks like if I had to describe it, it's almost like there's like bullet points there, right? So each of those stars and the backslashes, everything that you put in between those 2 slashes is going to be regarded as a comment. So we can put a comment here, for instance. We can say, Darshan is excited to teach today. And we can say, but he is not excited because his bed was not made. And then we can put another comment. We can say, this is because he is filming with his bed in the background, right? Sorry, mind my English. But that's basically what you can do with comments, right? Is you could put those comments in. And you can put these comments anywhere, by the way. You can put them in the method. You can take them out of the method. You can put them up here. You can put them here. You can put them back here, back here. And now if you try to run this code, okay, hold on. You can see that nothing happens, right? Because there's no errors. The compiler is giving us no errors. The runtime is giving us no errors. And why is that? It's because it's a comment. It's not actually part of the coding that you're doing in Java. Okay, so guys, that's basically how comments work in Java. Okay, guys, so as you can see, I've actually decided to print out all these different math functions. So what are these functions exactly? They are trigonometric functions. So just like in mathematics, you have sine and cos. In programming, you actually have a math class that has trigonometric functions that are assigned to it. And we have the function sine, we have the function cos, we have tan. 2 radians converts, basically this is in degrees, and that converts to radians. And then 2 degrees will convert the radians to degrees. A sine, a cos, a tan, these 3 here will return in radians, and these 3 will return in radians. So now if I run this, you'll see that we have 0 as sine half, we have 1 as cos half, and we have 0 as tan half. And then we have this huge number, 30 degrees is equivalent to 0.5235, all of this. Then we have 0 for 2 degrees, half 2 degrees gives us 0. So if we convert half to degrees, it gives us 0, and then we have 0, and then we have 1.5, a cos and a tan. So that's basically how the math function works with trigonometric. That's basically how the math class works with trigonometric functions. Okay, guys, so another function that I want to, another set of functions that I want to talk about in the math class are called the exponent methods. And there's basically 5 of them. We have exp, which is e to the power of 10. We have log 10, which is actually ln 10, and we have log 10, 10. So we have log base 10, and then we have 10 in the brackets here. And then we have math.power, which is 2, which is this part of here, to the power of 3. So 2 to the power of 3 should give us 8. And we have square root of 25, which is 5. So if I run this now, you will see that we get e to the power of 10 gives us 22,026.46 and continued numbers. And then we have log ln 10, which gives us 2.3025 continued numbers. And then we have log 10, 10, which is 1. And then we have 2 to the power of 3, which is 8. And we have square root of 25, which is 5.0. And as you can see, guys, this actually returns it in a double format. So keep that in mind. Okay, so the next set of methods that you can get in a math class is called the rounding methods. We have 4 of them. We have a ceil, a floor, an rint, and a round. So how do these methods work? So a ceil, how that works is that we give it a double number, and what it does is it rounds you to the highest units of that decimal. So 10.2 will be rounded to the highest units, which is 11. And for floor, it works the opposite way. We round it down, so this will become 5. Rint will round it down if it's below 0.5 and will round it up if it's higher than 0.5. But if it is split 50-50, just like it is now, 10.5, then it will return an even number. And finally, math.round works like a normal round, exactly like a normal round function. If you have 2.5, then that gets rounded up. And if you have 2.7, it gets rounded up. And anything below 2.5 gets rounded down. So now if we run this, we'll see we have 11, right? Ceil 11. Floor 5.7 gives us 5. Rint 10.5 gives us 10 because it's an even number. And 2.7 gives us 3. Now I want to show you what happens if we change this to 2.5 just to confirm. You'll see it gets rounded up to 3. Okay, so that's how the rounding methods work in the math class. Alright, so one thing I want to talk about is called escape sequences in Java. So there's actually 7 escape sequences that you should know about. There's a \b, a \c, a \n. Sorry, let me clear this. There's a \b, a \c, a \n, a \f, \r, and double quotation. So \b is actually a backspace. \t creates a tab. \n enters into the next line. \f is a form feed. \r is a carriage return. \/ basically says I'm going to print this \/ because of course if I try to say \r, then it's not gonna like show the \. And over here it says, hey, there are \? So if we actually erase this \, you'll see it's basically thinking, hey, now you're trying to like open up a string. So in order to make that \, something that we can put in there, we need to put in order to make that, that double quotation, a symbol that we want to put into our string, we have to use the \. So we can also use one over here. Right. And we also have all of this. We have \r, \. Okay, so if I run this, you'll see, okay, so \b is not really showing anything because we didn't put anything in there. We have hey there, \t, Rashid. So it's hey there with a space, and then there's this tab space before Rashid. Then we have hey there, \n Rashid. So hey there, \n takes us into the next line. I've actually mentioned this escape sequence before in my previous video, if you guys were listening. So we also have \f, which is \f, which is a form feed. Then we have a carriage return, \r, hey there, and then we have Rashid on the next line. We have hey there, \Rashid, because we want to show this \, but we don't want it to be like, so if I take this out, for instance, right, you can see it gives an error, so we have to put 2 \. And then we have hey there, Rashid inside double quotations. Okay, cool. All right, guys. So just like math has its methods, the character class also has different methods that you can use to check certain things about a character. So the character that I have declared is called ch, and I've assigned the letter s to that character. So what I want to do is I want to do these methods here. So one method is saying is digit. So it's checking is ch a digit. Then we have is letter, which is checking basically if ch is a letter. And then we can do it for both letter or digit. So it's checking if ch is a letter or a digit. Then we have is lowercase. So is ch in lowercase. And we have is uppercase. Is it an uppercase? And then we have two lowercase, which actually returns the value in lowercase, and two uppercase, which returns the value in uppercase. So the difference between two and is lower is lower will return true or false. Is upper will return true or false, but two lower, two upper will return the value itself. So now if we run this, let's see what values we get. Okay, so as you can see, is digit is returning false because s is not a digit. It returns true because it is a letter. Is letter or digit is true. And then we have is lowercase, which is also true. And we have is uppercase, which is false. And now we have two lowercase, which is s, and two uppercase, which is capital S. So now we can actually check something that's not a character, not a letter or a digit. For instance, we could check this dollar symbol, right? And then we could run this. And you can see it still gives us all these different outputs, like false, it's not a digit, it's not a letter, it's not a letter or a digit. Is it lowercase? Is it uppercase? Both of those are false because obviously a special character, it can't be upper or lowercase. It's just a special character is just designed to be in its like solid format, right? And it's saying here two lowercase, two uppercase, and it basically stays the same. So what if I actually use a capital letter, like a D for instance, and I run this? You can see is digit is false, is letter or digit is true, and we have is lowercase is false, is uppercase is true, and then it returns D for two lowercase and returns capital D for two uppercase. All right, everyone. So just like we have methods that are used for mathematical operations and methods that are used for characters, we also have simple methods that can be used for a string. I currently have 6 of these methods that I've typed out. So the first method, str.length, gives you the length of the string. So how do we calculate the length? The length is the last index number plus 1. So if we count here, we can actually see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's the length of this string is 10. We know that. And the next method that I want to talk about is char_at. So what char_at does is basically we find the character at that index position. So the index position that I've given my method is 2. So if we count, remember, this is very important, by the way. Whenever we look at arrays or we look at strings, the first index position that we start at is 0. In programming, we always start at 0. So this is actually in this position here is index 0. And then we start counting up. We have 1, 2. So the character that's actually going to be returned is T and not Y. I cannot stress how important it is that you understand that we start from the index 0. Okay, and in the next function, we have concat. Now, if you remember in my first video, I spoke about concatenation, which is basically adding 2 strings together. Well, in this case, we can actually use a method for a string called concat itself that will actually join this string here, this string variable, to this string over here, right? And then we have 3 more methods. We have toUppercase, that converts everything to uppercase. Then we have str.toLowercase, which converts everything to lowercase. And we have str.trim, which basically shortens our string. Right. So I'm going to show you how this works. I'm basically going to run this. Okay, guys. So I've actually added in 2 more spaces over here, and you'll see why now. So the string dot length will actually be 10 plus 2, which gives us 12. The character at 2 is t, as I've mentioned. We've concatenated byte fusion and is owned by Darshan. So that basically gives us byte fusion is owned by Darshan. And the reason why we have 3 spaces here is because we have 1 space here and 2 spaces here. Then 2 uppercase converts byte fusion to uppercase, and then 2 lowercase converts byte fusion to lowercase. And of course, string.trim, what it basically does is it takes out these 2 spaces here. And you can see that because when I actually click over here, you can see if I actually click on the line before this last line, you'll see that this cursor mark is like ending 2 spaces after the word. Or if we click here, it's not ending 2 spaces after. And that's because we've actually trimmed our string. Right, so those are simple methods for string objects that you can use. Alright, so I want to talk about some methods that you can use for strings where you can actually compare strings. So these are actually called comparison methods for string objects. So there's actually about 7 comparison methods. So we have equals, which basically checks if 2 strings are equals and returns true or false. We have equals ignores case, which also returns true or false, but this time we ignore the case. So unlike the first equals, which actually checks, hey, are all the cases like in line with each other? And we can clearly see that this byte fusion and this byte fusion don't have the same cases. Therefore, it will be false. But for the second one, it says equals ignore case, which means we completely ignore the cases and we equate them to each other. We also have string1 dot compare to string2. And this will return 0 if the 2 strings are equal. But sorry, this will return a value less than 0 if one string is less than the other string, 0 if they're both equal, or greater than 0 if both the strings are equal. And by looking at this, I can already tell you that string 1 is less than string 2 because capital letters come first before smaller letters. And if we actually look at the alphabet, you'll notice that A to Z, right, is basically increasing. So A is a smaller letter than B. I want you to keep that in mind. Okay, so we have string1 dot compare to ignore case string2. So that's going to give 0 because both the strings are equal if we ignore the case. And another method is starts with. So basically we check what prefix the word starts with, and we know that it starts with B, so it's going to return true. And ends with checks for the suffix, and we know that the suffix here is N and not H, so it returns false. And now we actually use this method called contains, which checks to see if this substring is actually contained in string 1. So is the string bytes contained in the string 1? Is byte contained in byte fusion? And we can clearly see that byte is right here, so that's going to return true. Then we have string1 dot contain string4. Is merge contained within byte fusion? And we know that merge is not inside byte fusion, therefore it will return false. So now if we run this, there you can see the first value is false, the second value is true. We have negative 32, 0, true for starts with, false for ends with, contains true for string 3, and contains false for string 4. Alright everyone, so another thing I want to talk about in Java is how we can basically look for substrings within a string. So for instance here we have this string called byte fusion, right? And we have this method called substring, and what substring basically does is we give it an index, we give it some index values, and we can return a substring. So in the first one, for instance, we're giving it the index value 4. And what that's basically saying is, at index number 4, that's where we want to start. Take everything from that index and everything that comes after. So if we actually count from our string here, we know that we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So basically we're saying starting at F, take F and every letter that comes after. So that should print out fusion. And we have for the second one, substring, and now we're giving it 2 index values. So we have a starting index, which is 0, which is basically at capital B, and we have our ending index, which is at 4, and that's at capital F. Now you'll notice that if we try to run this, it's going to print out byte as our substring. And why is that? It's because this end index is basically saying I want to take it where we have the end index minus 1. So we're going up to the end index 4. We're going from B to F, but we're not taking X, we're excluding F. It's always the length minus 1. And another one I want to show you is where we can take it from 4, so starting at 4, which is F, and then going all the way up to the length. So the length should be about 10. Right, so if we run this, we should get fusion, we should get bytes, and we should get fusion, I think. Let me check. Yeah, so as you can see, we get fusion for our first one, we get bytes, and then we get fusion again. So that's basically how you can get a substring from a string in Java. Remember, a substring is just part of a string, it's not the entire string itself. Alright guys, so another thing I want to talk about is finding the index of a substring or a character in Java. So we actually have two methods. We have index of and we have last index of. So in this first method, we're basically saying string index of, and then we're looking for the character L. So where is the index of L? So what's basically going to happen is that the command compiler is going to go to H. It's going to start at H, and it's going to run through this, and it's going to say, okay, is H L? No. Is E L? No. Right, now we have L, and we have L at the second index. For the second part here, we actually have a character and we have a position to start at. So now we're saying start at 5. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to start at this empty space and we're going to check where L comes. So we go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? So we have L at 8. And for the next method, we have index of, and this time instead of giving it a character, we're giving it a string, right? And we're saying the string is 2. So it's going to look for this 2 here. It's going to start from H and it's going to come up to this 2. And for the next one, we're saying look for 2 but start from 16. So 16 is like somewhere in front of this 2, right? So it's actually going to find this 2 over here. And then for last index of, we actually find the last index position of the character. So the character says O, so the last position will be right here at the end where it says U. And now we want to do it last index of where we're starting at 37. So 37 is like somewhere here, right? So basically we will count backwards from this position to this 2 to this O over here. Now the same thing can be applied to a string as well. So the last index of the string 2 is right here. And the last index of the string 2, where we start at 16, which is just before this 2, which is like somewhere here, will give us this position here. So now if I run this, you'll see we get 2 for index of L, 8 for index at L at position 5. We get 14 for the string 2. We get 34 for the string 2 starting at position 16. For last index of character O, we get 43. For character O starting at position 37, we get 35. Guys, remember when we have last index 2, we count back. We run the string backwards, otherwise it goes forwards. So in this case, we're going backwards. Last index of 2, so we have it at 34, which is over here. And then last index of 2 starting at position 16, which is like here. We have it over here, which is it starts at position 14. So this is actually 14 right here. That's where it's starting. So now what happens if we actually say we put this as 13, right? So we're starting over here. Now we know if we go backwards, if we actually scan this string and we go backwards, we're going to go all the way down to H and we're not going to find the string 2. Then what value will return then? So you'll see that it actually returns -1. So -1 is a default value for if we don't return an actual value. Okay, cool. Alright guys, so for our last lesson today, I'm going to talk about format specifiers in Java. So instead of having to print line or print in Java, you can actually do something called printf. And what printf allows you to do is it allows you to take in variables and format them so that they can be outputted in a useful way. So there are actually 6 different ways you can format a variable. The first way is to format by character. So for instance, we have percentage 5c. So what that's saying is that in this position right here, starting from this percentage sign, in this string, you achieved an in mathematics, right? We want A to place that position. But because it's 5c, it's actually going to put A in that position, and it's going to create 4 more spaces before A to cover up that width. Now this happens for every single format specifier. Keep that in mind. Okay, so for instance, in true and false, we know that true and false is false. So we want to print out false. So we say percentage 6b. So what that does is that it puts false in place of the 6b, plus it creates 1 more space. Since false is 5 characters long and we need 6 characters in total, we're going to have a space and then we're going to have false. For the next one, it has I walked percentage 5d kilometers today. So I want to say I walked 10 kilometers, so 10 will be placed over here, but it will be 3 spaces before the 10. And then this one's actually very useful. This next one, which is the F format specifier, percentage F, is actually very useful when you're dealing with doubles and floats in Java. So for instance, it says here, I bought a game from Steam for R percentage 10.1F. So what that basically means is the entire double itself is going to be 10 in width. It's going to be given 10 spaces in width. Plus, we're going to give it, and we're going to give it 1 space for its decimal position after the point. So in other words, 169.6 is going to print out to the console, and we're going to have spaces before 169. And the next one is actually doing it in scientific notation. And finally, we have enter your name here, and we got percentage 12s. So what that does is that basically you have Darshan, and you create 12 spaces for Darshan. So you can have 12 spaces for Darshan. So I actually want to do something here. I'm actually going to say this as negative 12. So what that's going to do is it's going to reverse the order. Instead of doing the spaces before the Darshan, it's going to do the spaces after. So it's going to be Darshan 6 spaces plus another 6 spaces. And just to make it visible, I'm actually going to put a punctuation mark right there. Okay, cool. So now if we run this, we should see that you have achieved an 5 character spaces, and A is the last one in those character spaces. We have true and false is false. I walked 10 kilometers today. I bought a game from Steam for R 169.6. This scientific notation is 2.14 E plus 05. I think that's to the power of 5. And then it says enter your name here, and I entered Darshan, and you can see there's actually 5 spaces after Darshan. There's actually 6 spaces after Darshan, and there's the points. So now what happens if you actually enter a width that's less than the variable size, or like this double size right here, right? Like this, we know this size is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what if we put something like 3, for instance? Is that going to like truncate the decimal? Is it going to truncate it? What will it do? Let's find out. So we press the execute command. You'll see it actually, what it does is that it increases the width so that it can include the entire variable itself. So instead of it being 3, it will increase it to about 6, I think. If we make this 6, right, which is exactly, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's creating 1 more space here, because the point itself over here doesn't actually count as the width itself, so we exclude the points. Okay, everyone, so that brings us to the end of the lesson. Thank you so much for watching and keeping concentrating this long. You've done a good job. I'm definitely going to release more videos. I'm really happy that you're taking an interest in programming, And I hope this, all these different things that I've shown you, you can actually put it into practice, try to implement something, maybe create like a small mathematical game, maybe even a mathematical calculator. Just try things, try to like put this into like practice. And it's also very good if you can find like programming exercises online and then try to do those. That will definitely help you as well. So that's all the advice I can give you. And I would just like to say that I'm very glad that I get to educate you guys. Keeping enthusiastic about it is not that easy. I have no audience in front of me, so it's a bit harder in that case. But it's also pretty easy to be behind the camera because you can do editing and you can sort of make the video look good for your viewers and your students. So I really hope I've done a good job. And yeah, that brings us to the end of the video. Okay, cool. So lastly, I would just like to say, please subscribe to my channel, share this video, like, comment, and I actually have an account on Instagram. I will not mention it now, but when the time comes, I will. I might create a ByteFusion account, but all of that's for the future. And yeah, so have a good rest of your day. I hope you learned something from this lesson, and I can't wait to see you guys again. Hopefully very soon, because I actually want to do more than 2 videos today. All right, cool. Sai Sita Ram.